Welcome to the participants who just arrived. We're gathering for the virtual regional workshop. We'll be gathering for another couple of minutes, so please settle in. We'll start up around the top of the hour. Welcome again to the participants just arriving. We're expecting quite a few more people to be joining in the next minute or two, so we will just hang tight, invite everyone to settle in. Thank you for joining. Again, welcome everybody who's joining for the Advancing 30 by 30 in Climate Smart Lands virtual workshop, the regional workshop for the San Francisco Bay Area. We have quite a few people arriving right now. We're going to take another minute or two to let everybody come in from the waiting. Thanks for your patience. Invite everyone to settle in. Right, welcome again, everyone who's arriving for the Advancing 30 by 30 and Climate Smart Lands regional workshop. We have quite a few people arriving right now at the top of the hour. We're going to take another minute or two to allow people to arrive, and then we'll start up. Takes just a moment to get everyone in from the waiting. All right, I see that people are still arriving. We will start, just for the support team, we'll start in 1 minute. Again, welcome to all of you who are arriving right now for the Advancing 30 by 30 and Climate Smart Lands workshop will be starting in just a few moments here, just bringing people in from the waiting room. Okay, I'm going to propose we get started. Welcome everyone to the Advancing 30 by 30 and Climate Smart Lands virtual regional workshop. This is the workshop for the San Francisco Bay region. It's the the second of 9 virtual workshops for Advancing 30 by 30 and Climate Smart Lands. We are in the Bay Area today, and we're excited to have you join us, and we look forward to collaborating with you today. So my name is Eric Poncelet. I'm with Crimson West, and I will be one of your co-facilitators for today's regional workshop. We want to start with a few housekeeping items, and I'll go through these over the course of several slides. So first, with regard to meeting recording, the workshop will be recorded for further viewing and will be posted on the website www.californianature.ca.gov. And to let everyone know, we're also streaming the workshop live on the CNRA YouTube page. With regard to interpretation assistance, this meeting is being interpreted in Spanish, Vietnamese, Cantonese, and Mandarin. And if you need interpretation service, please provide your language in the chat or raise your hand with the raise hand function. And you could do so by looking at the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and clicking that, and then clicking raise hand. And if you want to raise your hand by participating by phone, you dial *9. So a little bit of some instructions here for interpretation assistance. So in order for the audio channel for any of these languages to be accessed, you need to click the interpretation button, which is the globe icon in your Zoom taskbar. And this button will appear after we complete these instructions. So the instructions now will be repeated in the other 4 languages that we're having interpretation for, and then you'll be able to join the audio channel for that language at that point. So again, at the end of the instructions, the interpretation button will appear, and you'll be able to select your language and begin the interpretation. So now we'll invite our interpreters to repeat these instructions in language. And we'd like to start first in Spanish. And here I'd like to invite Victor Hernandez to help us out.
Thank you, Eric. Muy buenas tardes. Le queremos dejar saber que esta reunión será interpretada en español, vietnamita, cantonés y mandarín. Para acceder al canal de audio de cualquiera de estos idiomas, haga clic en el botón de interpretación, que es el icono del globo o símbolo del mundo en la barra de tareas de Zoom. Aparecerá un menú y entonces usted podrá seleccionar el idioma que usted necesite. Este mensaje se repetirá en todos los idiomas y a continuación podrá usted unirse al canal de audio para ese idioma. La interpretación entonces comenzará al final de este mensaje. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Victor. For Vietnamese, Tiffany Tong, please.
Cảm ơn, thank you Eric. Chúng tôi cung ứng dịch vụ thông dịch trực tiếp sang tiếng Việt, tiếng Tây Ban Nha và tiếng Quan thoại và tiếng phổ thông. Nếu quý vị muốn nghe nội dung cuộc họp bằng tiếng Việt, xin hãy nhấp chuột vào nút Interpretation ở phía dưới màn hình Zoom góc bên tay phải. Góc bên tay phải, nếu quý vị thấy một biểu tượng hình quả cầu và xin chọn bằng tiếng Việt. Một lần nữa, để nghe thông dịch bằng tiếng Việt, xin hãy chọn tiếng Việt. Và cảm ơn nếu quý vị tham gia cuộc họp thông qua ứng dụng Zoom dành cho điện thoại sáng suốt, xin hãy chọn ngôn ngữ của quý vị bằng cách chạm vào và lựa ngôi sao và chấm số 9. Cảm ơn tất cả mọi người đã đến tham dự cuộc họp ngày hôm nay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. So for the instructions in Mandarin, Kathy Wu, please. Kathy, you're still on mute.
大家好， 我是 Kathy Wu， 我将为这个会议做国语普通话的同声传译。需要中文翻译，请用口译的按钮，是一个像地球仪这样子的，在你屏幕下面的那个任务栏 Taskbar 那里就点击，然后你就选国语Mandarin。如果想要听广东话、粤语呢，就选 Cantonese。如果你想看那个英文字幕呢，就按 CC。谢谢 ，Thank you。
Thank you. And then finally, the instructions in Cantonese. Wei Tang, please.
係歡迎大家參加今晚嘅會議。今晚嘅會議咧將會係傳譯做4種語言：西班牙文啦、越南文啦、廣東話同埋國語普通話嘅。咁為咗等你可以聽到呢個適當嘅頻道以上嘅語言咧，請你喺熒幕嘅底部選擇呢個口譯嘅功能 interpretation 同埋代表一個地球嘅圖標嘅。咁咧撳咗之後咧，你就會見到咧幾種語言可以選擇。如果係要呢個係廣東話嘅話，請你揀Cantonese 嘅嚇。咁呢個口述咧會幾種語言重複啦，我係最後一位嚇。咁之後咧就你就可以開啟咗呢個口譯功能之後，你就可以選擇啦。咁然後咧就呢個口譯咧就將會喺呢個信息完結之後咧就即刻就會開始噶啦。咁如果你想睇呢個英文，你懂得睇英文嘅呢個字幕嘅話，咁你可以喺呢個熒幕嘅下部咧撳呢個 CC 咧，你咧就可以睇到咧係呢個字幕噶啦。多謝。
Thank you. Thank you in advance to all of our interpreters. We now invite participants to join the interpretation audio channels. So please click the interpretation button, which should be available. It's the globe icon on the Zoom taskbar. Okay, thanks for that. So a couple more logistical slides. The next is the topic of closed captioning. This is available for this workshop as well. If you'd like to use this option, please click the closed caption icon in the Zoom taskbar shown on the slide, and then select subtitles to view subtitles on the screen or live transcript to see the full transcript on the side panel. Okay, a couple slides on how to participate. Participants will generally be muted during the workshop and will be participating primarily via polling, and no video is required. If you need technical assistance, please contact the technical support team by using the chat button, which is on your Zoom taskbar shown highlighted below. We will also share relevant links through the chat feature throughout the workshop. Secondly, participants can also request technical assistance by using the raised hand function. And to access that, you click on the reactions bar in the Zoom taskbar, the reactions button, and then you can select raise your hand. And if you're on a phone and would like to raise your hand, you dial *9. Okay, tips for a productive workshop. We have a large number of members of the public participating today, both virtually via the webinar and also by phone. And we want to make this workshop as productive as possible. And as we move through this workshop, we invite you all to please follow the following guidelines. First, please be respectful. This is to each other and the different views and interests being represented, but also to the workshop agenda and the objectives we're trying to achieve. Second, threatening, profane, and other inappropriate language will not be allowed in the workshop. And then finally, disruptive participants will be removed from the workshop as needed. We invite your cooperation in making this a productive meeting for everyone. Okay, so let's move on to welcome and introductions. Facilitating the workshop today with me from Kearns and West are Cece Vu and Jenna Tourget. And joining us from the California Natural Resources Agency are Jennifer Norris, who's the Deputy Secretary for Biodiversity and Habitat, Amanda Hansen, the Deputy Secretary for Climate Change, Amanda, and thirdly, Mark Gold, who's the Deputy Secretary for Oceans and Coastal Policy and the Executive Director for the Ocean Protection Council. So in terms of our workshop objectives, these 9 regional workshops are designed to ensure that the state hears from a broad cross-section of stakeholders with vital interests in how California achieves our goals of conserving 30% of state lands and coastal waters by 2030 and accelerating nature-based climate solutions. So our objectives today are threefold and include, first, providing an overview of nature-based solutions and relevant action items in Governor Newsom's Executive Order N-82-20. Second, introducing the Natural and Working Lands Climate Smart Strategy and Pathways to 30 by 30. And then finally, it's hearing from you to gain regional perspectives and ideas from you all as participants. So finally, agenda review. We will be spending around 40 minutes providing you with these updates, and then the rest of our time together will be spent conducting polling activities aimed at gathering insights, experiences, and ideas from you all as participants in the public today. After brief presentations from Secretary Wade Crawford, Jennifer Norris, Amanda Hansen, and Mark Gold of the California Natural Resources Agency, we'll then kick off the public engagement portion of the meeting with the poll to learn about you and your priorities. Then we'll break into 3 smaller breakout groups to engage in interactive polling, asking a wide range of questions on a variety of topics. And these breakout sessions will go by quickly, so we invite you to please respond to the polling questions as they're shared as concisely as possible so that everyone gets a chance to contribute. We want to need your experiences and ideas as we work together to create substantive long-term strategies the state will implement to achieve this goal. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer Norris to share a tribal acknowledgement. Off to you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Eric. And good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start today by acknowledging the importance of tribal communities in this process. Our tribal partners are integral to achieving the goals set forth in the governor's executive order. We know that by working together, we can further safeguard the environment, preserve tribal cultural practices, strengthen relationships between the state and tribal nations, and more. The Resources Agency is currently engaging tribes through government-to-government consultations. In addition, in coming months, we'll be holding tribal listening sessions to engage tribes, solicit tribal input, and explore opportunities to collaborate. We look forward to working with our tribal partners, and we encourage those who would like to connect with us on tribal issues to visit our website to see a schedule of the listening sessions. Please visit our website at www.resources.ca.gov. I also want to acknowledge any elected officials that joined today. Thank you for your participation. In a minute, we're going to hear from Secretary Crawford. He would want me to point out that public engagement is critically important to the state, even as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that virtual meetings are not the ideal way to have a conversation, but we didn't want to delay this important work on 30 by 30 and climate smart lands. And while this isn't how we envisioned, we really hope these meetings will be productive and a positive process for everyone involved. Collaboration is essential to achieving the goals outlined in the executive order. And in that spirit, I'll pause here to acknowledge this week's news and the ongoing national conversation about racial justice. I want to underscore our commitment to engaging all voices and to advancing equity in all of our work. We begin today with opening remarks from Wade Crawford, Secretary of the California Natural Resources Agency, the agency that protects and manages California's natural resources, including our forests, rivers and waterways, coast and ocean, fish and wildlife, water and energy. And here's Secretary Crawford.
I'm Wade Crawford, our California Natural Resources Secretary. Welcome and thank you for joining one of 9 virtual regional workshops to advance nature-based solutions across our state. Last fall, Governor Newsom issued an executive order that elevated the role of nature in both combating climate change, maintaining and protecting our biological diversity, and achieving more equitable access to our outdoors. In our agency, the Natural Resources Agency, we're really excited about the governor's leadership that's of course matched by our legislature on expanding environmental conservation across our state to achieve these multiple objectives. We live in a remarkable state, known around the world for our natural diversity of plants and animals, topographies, ecosystems, and our cultural diversity. where we are succeeding and thriving across all conceivable differences within our human species. The work that you'll be involved in and the input you provide will ensure that looking forward in coming years and decades, we craft smart, ambitious, but achievable strategies to expand environmental conservation and utilize nature in the fight against climate change. In that executive order that Governor Newsom issued last fall, he called for conserving 30% of our state's land and coastal waters by 2030, which we call the 30 by 30 target. He also called for the development of a climate smart land strategy so we can understand how we better manage both our natural and working lands to both remove carbon from the atmosphere and protect people and nature from the impacts of climate change. The best ideas we have and the most effective actions will achieve multiple benefits. At the same time, combating climate change, preserving biodiversity, and expanding recreational and outdoor access for all Californians. We know there are no one-size-fits-all solutions from Sacramento for this work, and our regions are so different in both the challenges they face and the opportunities they offer, that these regional workshops are really critical to help us understand what is the situation in your part of California? What are critical priorities in this area that we need to address? What are challenges you face to environmental conservation and climate action and equitable access? And importantly, what are opportunities for our state agency and more importantly, our state government to help you seize these opportunities in your region to expand equitable, thoughtful, sustainable, balanced environmental conservation. So we're really excited with your participation and look forward to these regional workshops figuring in and informing both a strategy for the achievement of the 30 by 30 target and our climate smart land strategy coming up in recent months. Really appreciate all that you do in your own lives on these important topics, and very excited to hear from you today and in coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. So now I'd like to turn it over to Amanda Hansen, the Deputy Secretary for Climate Change, for exploration into the nature-based solutions.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Amanda Hansen, and I'm going to provide some background on why Governor Newsom issued an executive order on nature-based solutions, what nature-based solutions are, and why they matter, and just tee up the focus of our workshop. We're really drilling down into two things, one of which I will walk through, and then I will hand it over to my colleague, Jen. So climate change and biodiversity loss are among the top 5 threats that humanity will face in the next 10 years. And as we know all too well, California is not immune to these crises. Last year alone, historic wildfires burned over 4 million acres in California. Lives were lost, homes and businesses were destroyed, public health suffered from hazardous air quality, and nature we treasure is gone. These fires took place in the middle of a deadly pandemic and heat wave, and on the heels of the most extreme drought in the state's history. California is considered one of the world's 36 biodiversity hotspots because of its concentration of unique species that are also experiencing unprecedented threats, including climate change. The governor issued this executive order in direct response to these threats, and he outlined a comprehensive and results-oriented nature-based solutions agenda for California, which brings us to what are nature-based solutions and why are they important? When we talk about nature-based solutions, we are talking about actions that work with and enhance nature to help address societal challenges. And they're important because they provide so many benefits, many of which we depend on for our very well-being. This slide shows a few examples of nature-based solutions that address climate change and protect biodiversity. So the circular image that you can see in the middle there is an example of community greening, a suite of nature-based solutions that can cool communities experiencing extreme heat, reduce energy costs, allow soils to better absorb water, expand access to nature, enhance biodiversity, reduce the impacts of pollution, and increase quality of life. The top right image shows wetlands and riparian areas which sequester carbon, reduce flood risk, filter pollution, and protect habitat. The middle right image is an example of an agricultural nature-based solution. This hedgerow supports pollinators, improves habitat, conserves water, enhances our food supply, and contributes to our economic prosperity. And finally, the lower right image speaks to the many benefits nature-based climate solutions in our forests deliver to what they can deliver to Californians. Healthy forests reduce the threat of catastrophic wildfire, and they serve as a carbon sink. They also capture and clean our water supply, they improve our air quality, provide habitat for wildlife, and support local economies. As Secretary Crawford outlined at the beginning, today's workshop is really focused on two particular deliverables from the Governor's Nature-Based Solutions Executive Order. Our Pathways to 30 by 30 document, which Jen will outline in a few minutes, and the Natural and Working Lands Climate Smart Strategy, which I am going to quickly outline the goals for and also explore how this strategy might be able to support your regional priorities. So, natural and working lands is the term that we use in California to describe the nature-based solutions sector, which consists of the iconic landscapes we know and love, our forests, wetlands, farmland, community green spaces, grasslands, deserts, and more. These lands cover 90% of the state's 104 million acres. And while our lands offer significant opportunity to meet California's climate goals, they really have been the missing piece of our state's climate agenda. And the Natural and Working Lands Climate Smart Strategy is intended to close this gap. So we're excited to align relevant existing state efforts under one cohesive strategy and to identify land management actions that help us protect vulnerable communities, achieve carbon neutrality, improve public health and safety, and expand economic opportunity. So what does this mean for your region? We want to learn about nature-based climate solutions that are important to you and how our statewide strategy might be able to support your environmental, economic, and equity priorities. For example, the science points to significant temperature increases in the Bay Area, particularly inland areas. Are there nature-based climate solutions you feel are important to reduce risks from and build resilience to extreme heat, such as community greening or green roofs, splash parks? Sea level rise is also projected to have serious consequences for the Bay Area, destructive flooding, and with disproportionate impacts on vulnerable communities. Are there nature-based solutions that can reduce these risks, such as wetland restoration, living shorelines, or stormwater parks? Wine grape production in the Bay Area could be vulnerable to extreme temperatures and temperature-related water scarcity. Are there actions that the state strategy can prioritize to support this region's agricultural community in adapting to these climate threats? Are there careers in the natural and working land sector you'd like to elevate in the Bay Area, such as habitat restoration technicians, community foresters, or carbon farmers? Really looking forward to your input today, and I'm now going to hand it off to my colleague, Jennifer Norris. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Again, I'm Jennifer Norris, and I am running point on our 30 by 30 initiative. So as you've heard, our goal is to conserve 30% of our lands and coastal waters by 2030. And we want to do so in a manner that protects biodiversity, combats climate change, increases access to nature, and safeguards our economic sustainability and food supply. We want to be purposeful in our approach. We want to conserve places that effectively protect the biological diversity of California, our unique plants and animals. We want to conserve lands and waters that will most meaningfully address climate change in the ways that Amanda outlined. And we want to conserve in a way that provides equitable access to nature and its benefits, like clean water, clean air, climate resilience, and recreation. So what kinds of places are we talking about? Here's one, Coyote Ridge in Santa Clara Valley. Almost 2,000 acres of rare serpentine grassland in the Diablo Range foothills. Here, the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority uses managed grazing to protect habitat for native plants, tule elk, and the rare bay checkerspot butterfly. Or this place, Cullinan Ranch, where a partnership of state and federal agencies and nonprofit groups came together to restore 1,500 acres of tidal marsh along Route 37, just east of Vallejo. This project, located along the Pacific Flyway, provides important habitat for resident waterfowl and thousands of migrating birds. And like healthy wetlands everywhere, it filters harmful pollutants out of the bay, improving its water quality. Finally, Pillar Point State Marine Conservation Area, home to the Maverick Surfing Competition. This place supports sport and commercial fishing for mackerel, salmon, and Dungeness crab, and along with the adjacent Montara State Marine Preserve, protects over 18 square miles of coastal habitat for seagrass, giant kelp, starfish, sharks, and rays. Achieving 30 by 30 will rely on the accumulation of places like this across the state. Good conservation can happen on every conceivable land type and through a wide variety of different strategies. We know that one size does not fit all. And at the end of the day, conservation happens locally, so we need to work together. By February 2022, we will deliver our Pathways to 30 by 30 document, which will identify opportunities and strategies to achieve 30 by 30. It will also identify challenges to meeting our goals. This document is intended to set us on the path to successful implementation of 30 by 30. Today, we want to hear from you about your region and your perspectives on what those opportunities and challenges are. Where would you like to see conservation happen here? Are there particular places or types of landscapes you'd prioritize? We're interested to know how you think we should go about it. Which strategies to conserve are most effective in this region? We want to invest in those successful approaches. Tell us what those are. And at the same time, we'd like to know which strategies are more challenging and why, so we can work to address gaps. Your insights today will be used to develop our document and help us define conservation. You'll be asked later to share, what does conservation look like to you? I'll note that in the executive order called for the establishment of a biodiversity collaborative in recognition of the fact that partners across the state have experience and expertise that we can learn from. This conversation is the beginning of what we hope is an ongoing partnership. 30 by 30 isn't a new mandate, and it won't be accomplished from the top down. By sharing your insights with us, we hope to learn how we can be more effective partners. Our ultimate goal is for 30 by 30 to be what is called an open source movement, for people across the state from a diverse array of sectors to see themselves as owners of the initiative and to commit to achieving 30 by 30 with us. Thank you again for being here. I really look forward to hearing your ideas. Now I'll hand it over to my colleague, Mark Gold.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks to everybody for coming out tonight and spending a couple hours with us. We're really looking forward to the discussion. I'm honored to be here today as we focus on some of the most pressing issues facing California's work to protect our natural habitats, combating climate change, and ensuring biodiversity in this great state. For those of you who are not familiar with the Ocean Protection Council, we have a mission to ensure that California maintains healthy, resilient, and productive ocean and coastal ecosystems. OPC works across various state agencies to coordinate activities related to ocean protection, and we also establish policies that facilitate the collection and sharing of scientific data, as well to identify policy areas that need to be addressed at both the state and federal levels. State waters run from the tide lines to 3 miles out, and 16% of coastal waters are part of the statewide Marine Protected Area Network. 9% of state coastal marine waters are protected through no-take reserves, and another 7% are limited commercial and/or recreational take MPAs. The MPA network is approaching a decadal review of the program by the end of 2022, and currently, we're not looking at MPA expansion as part of the 30 by 30 path for the ocean. Right now, there's 124 MPAs in the network, and we don't see that changing anytime in the immediate future. Our coastal regions and ocean are important ecosystems that are not only places where species thrive, but also serve as main attractions for California residents and visitors who want to enjoy the sand, water, and features of our coastline. These areas are also integral to our economy with aquaculture, energy generation, and the network of ports up and down the state that are essential to the movement of goods in and out of California and the entire nation. Climate change threatens the coast and ocean with rising sea level rise and ocean acidification, while other coastal resources suffer from the impacts of water pollution, harmful algae blooms, and habitat loss. We must take steps now to prevent further erosion of the coast and loss of rocky intertidal habitats, wetlands, and beaches, as well as the loss of kelp forests and the loss of marine life. In order to develop the path to 30 by 30 for coastal waters, stakeholder engagement will be critical to better define what conservation means for California's coastal zone and waters. Right now, California has 34 areas of special biological significance identified, 3 national estuary programs, 3 national estuarine research reserves, and 4 national marine sanctuaries that are critical for conservation. This effort will enable California to develop practical and scientifically based strategies that will get us to 30 by 30 for our coastal regions and our ocean waters. And now back to Jen.
Thanks, Mark. We just have a few more slides and then we'll get to the breakout rooms. So I just wanted to give you an update on CA Nature. If you watched our January webinar, you know that we have been working with Esri on a geospatial information system called CA Nature. This system is being designed to be a publicly accessible suite of interactive mapping and visualization tools. CA Nature will bring together maps of biodiversity, climate change, and access so we can view and analyze different features of the landscape in one place. It will allow us to identify places across California where we have the opportunity to achieve our biodiversity, climate, and equity goals. We will use CA Nature to assess what percentage of California is already conserved and track progress toward our goal. We are currently developing CA Nature using authoritative statewide data that we currently use or have access to. But of course, this is only the first version. We expect to expand this system over time, integrating new information that reflects our changes in understanding and knowledge. Some of you have been asking how you can provide data for use in CA Nature. So there is now a submission form on our website where you can input information about data that you want us to consider for future versions. We're most interested in statewide information that meets our program objectives and has strong scientific data and documentation, meets those standards. Anyway, stay tuned for future updates on CA Nature. We're really excited about this and look forward to telling you more. Now, over to the facilitators to take over. I think it's Jenna. Hey, Jenna.
Yes, thank you, Jen. This is Jenna Troget. And as you've heard from Amanda, Jen, and Mark, the state has been busy since Governor Newsom issued the executive order. Let's zoom out and look at where we've been and where we're going next. So since Governor Newsom issued the executive order last October, the California Natural Resources Agency and its partner agencies have made some important progress towards developing these strategies. In January, a kickoff webinar was hosted by the state that drew in over 800 interested parties. We began a formal consultation process with California Native American tribes and continue to host tribal listening sessions in the coming months to share information, solicit tribal input, and collaborate. We've been engaging with interested parties and stakeholders from around the state to hear perspective and insights related to these efforts. We've launched CaliforniaNatureCA.gov to serve as a portal for visitors to learn and engage in developing the Pathways to 30 by 30 and Natural and Working Lands Climate Smart Strategy. We released a public input questionnaire to gather experiences and ideas from a broad cross-section of Californians. The questionnaire is open until May 14th, so please check it out and provide additional information. And today is the first of 9 regional workshops to gain input and perspectives. These virtual webinars are open to all interested parties, no matter where you reside, and you are welcome to attend more than one. This summer, CNRA will convene several topical advisory panels to address key questions to support the development of the Pathways to 30 by 30 document, the Natural and Working Lands Climate Smart Strategy, and the CA Nature GIS tool that Jen just shared about. Each advisory panel will produce a summary document that gives context to their topic area, offers technical or other insights, and provides key recommendations. Topics will include issues related to climate change, biodiversity, defining conservation, and equitable approaches to this work. The panel will also present the relevant deliberations and recommendations in a two-part virtual convening, concluding with time for public comment on the topic to be received by CNRA leadership. We'll use the information we gathered in the drafting of the Climate Smart Land Strategy document, which will be released this summer for public review and input. This document is important and will be finalized and delivered in October as we begin the next phase of this effort. Throughout the fall, we'll host another series of virtual workshops to update the public on our progress and invite more participation. And we'll also be drafting and releasing the other strategy document, Pathways to 30 by 30. The public's review and input will be critical, just like Climate Smart Land. This strategy document will be finalized and delivered in February of 2022. And as it was mentioned earlier, ongoing public involvement and engagement remains critically important to the state, even as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. As Jen mentioned before, we know that virtual meetings are not the ideal way to host these conversations, but we did not want to delay this part of the work in advancing 30 by 30 and climate smart lands. We hope that while this isn't how we envisioned, that it's a productive and positive process for everyone involved. The collaborative process is a significant aspect of how we will be able to achieve the goals outlined in the executive order. And as conditions approve, we look forward to scheduling in-person opportunities to get your insights and perspectives. To support this effort, we've launched a new website, californianature.ca.gov, to serve as the portal of information about advancing 30 by 30 and climate smart lands. This new website features information about the executive order, how nature-based solutions work, important data on climate change in California, ways to get involved through regional workshops and other events, as well as a place for you to share your insights. The website is integral to ensuring that the state has robust public engagement in meeting the goals of this effort. That's why californianature.ca.gov also features an interactive public input questionnaire designed to solicit input that can be used in developing the two main strategy documents to guide the work we must do as the state. Be sure to visit californianature.ca.gov to learn more, to share your input, and to stay informed as we work to achieve these critical goals. And we want you to stay in touch. Please contact us, ask questions, and/or provide your experiences and ideas via these multiple platforms. I'm going to turn this over now to Cece Vu for Exploring the Region segment of this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. We promise we just have a couple more slides before we jump into some activities here and have a little bit of fun. So I'm going to take a bit of time right now to focus on our some perspectives on our rich San Francisco Bay Area region and provide an opportunity for you to participate in this process. The San Francisco Bay Area region, for our purposes, consists of many areas: Marin, Sonoma, Napa, Contra Costa, Alameda, Santa Clara, San Mateo, San Francisco counties, and the western extent of Solano County. Over 7.5 million people call San Francisco Bay Area their home. Recreational and natural resources are represented by a broad range of coastal and mountainous lands, which includes beaches along Half Moon Bay and Point Reyes National Seashore, redwood forests throughout the coastal mountain regions, and agritourism in Napa and Sonoma counties. This region's visitor tourism brings in 12.6 million annually, making it the second highest in the state. Agricultural products, especially livestock and grapes, wine, bringing in another 3.2 billion. As you probably know, this region is rich in both natural and agricultural lands. This region's land cover predominantly consists of tree land cover, about 31%, 19% grasslands, urban development, which is 15%, with smaller amounts of shrublands and croplands and wetlands. With the region, water, including near shore, ocean covers approximately about 17% of the total area. This is a rich and dynamic region that contributes greatly to the entire state. We wanted to provide you with this regional snapshot before we dive further into the meeting. Your perspective will be important as we move into the next segment, where we will engage you and gather your feedback on a series of questions that will be used to develop the strategies that Amanda and Jen described. Since we're in a virtual meeting, and as Jenna and Jen, indicated, it's tough. We're going to work with what we have. We will be conducting an online polling activity to capture responses on the screen so that others here in the room can collectively view and experience it. The polling tool will also be saved, or actually will save your written responses, which will help inform the deliverables that we discussed earlier for the three priorities. You can participate in three ways. I'm just going to give you some instructions. Please bear with me. On your computer, one, by opening your browser and going to POLL, and there's for webinar users, it's on the screen. It's pollev.com/KW poll 1. The second way is on your smartphone by opening a browser and going to pollev.com/WPOLL1. And then the last way you can participate is by texting to KW poll 1 to the number 22333. Let me repeat that again. Sending a text to KW POLL1 to the number 22333. So please use your preferred option to respond to these three questions that I will pose now. Let's begin. And if you have two-word answers, please put, or multiple word answers, please put an underscore in between each word so that we can connect them. First question, where are you located? We're going to take a minute or so to collect the responses and see where we are from today or located today. Oakland, San Francisco, there's Berkeley, Marin. Looks like predominantly San Francisco right now. We also have Concord. Looks like Palo Alto, Stanford, Pacifica, Woodside. Yeah, but it looks like we're predominantly in this room, we're in San Francisco, located in San Francisco. Let's move on to our next question. That was really fun to see. And I think I saw Cancun or something like that. And you're all ahead on your phone, please, what sector do you represent? Looks like non-governmental and community-based organizations are in the room today. We have a percentage, 20% or so of government participation, with 10% business, labor, 10% general public. We have some of our academics in the room. We don't have any tribal community members. Great. Okay, so it looks like most of our participation today is from our non-governmental and community-based organizations. Let's go on to our next question. When you think about nature or special places in this region, what comes to mind? Someone decided to test KW poll 2. Wetlands, the bay, peaceful. We're getting the popular response, wetlands. Beaches, bay, Mount Tam, coastlines, Marin headlands. Do I see wine country? Hills. Farallons, I see that. Fishing, Muir Woods. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for answering these questions today. That was fun to see your responses, and they keep coming. Voting, I see. So we're going to move on to the next activity. This polling activity that we just conducted gives you a little bit of flavor of how we will be requesting your feedback in this next part of the meeting to further inform the development of the Natural Lands Climate Smart Strategy and the 30 by 30 pathways. As we have a large, I think we have over 200 participants here today, we will now transition into breakout groups so that your feedback can most effectively be given and captured. And I'm just going to give you a few instructions. Please bear with me. In the breakout session, we will be asking you all to provide your experiences and ideas in 3 areas of your region: interests and current efforts, challenges, and opportunities. And I'm going to spend just another few minutes to go over some of the logistics. So I don't think we have many phone participants here today, but just in case someone joins late, phone participants, please stay in the main room. Please deny any prompts to join the breakout. We are asking participants who requested interpretation upon registration to remain in the same main room here. If you need interpretation services, please chat if you didn't register. Other webinar participants will randomly be assigned to, and I think we're gonna break you up into 3 rooms today because we don't have many phone participants. So everyone will be participating via webinar. And so now some details on the questions and responses. We will capture webinar participants the participants' feedback in breakout rooms similar to how we've done here in the plenary session. There are a number of questions we would like to get through, so we hope that you can share brief responses. You'll be able to see other people's responses and reflect on them, and that's the whole idea of this exercise. Our team will synthesize the common themes from your responses and incorporate them into a meeting summary, which we will be making publicly available. We will treat all responses equally. If you need more time to think through your responses, please remember that you can always submit them via the public input questionnaire on the state's website, californianature.ca.gov. Now we will begin the process of assigning you to your breakout group. A facilitator will meet you in your breakout room, but they may be arriving after you, so please hang tight. Please follow the message prompt on your screen now. Have fun. Okay, we're still waiting for our participants to file in. So just give it another minute.
We'll be joining.
Looks like the process is still going on, so we're going to give it another minute.
Yeah, I think we were all moved back again, back to breakout.
Okay. This is virtual. These are virtual meetings for you, you know. Okay. I think we have everyone in our breakout rooms. Okay, we're good. I got word from our tech support. So welcome everybody to this room. And generally, we reserve this room for participants who have phone-only access. But today we didn't have many or any phone participants. So we're going to open it up to you all to do a polling exercise. Let me just check the rosters here to make sure we're not leaving out any phone participants, because I want to give you instructions so that you can participate. Okay, yeah, doesn't look like we have any phone participants. So, okay, well, welcome to our breakout room here today. Just a reminder that we're still being recorded in this session, and we're also streaming on YouTube Live. And in particular, this room, we're on the spot. So let's get some good responses in there. Our interpretation services are also in this room and still available in this room. If you join late here, please look for interpretation instructions in the chat and select your language. My name is Cece Vu, as you have gathered from the plenary, and I'll be facilitating this session. So in this session, we are going to ask you to, I think we have some slides. Our support team, do we have any slides for our folks for instructions for the poll everywhere exercise? Here we go. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, the breakout sessions are organized into three main themes: the regional interests and current efforts, challenges and opportunities, and then we will be conducting a polling exercise through a tool called Poll Everywhere. And as you can see on the screen, you can participate by computer, by smartphone, and by texting. So you have three choices. And so what I'm going to ask you right now is, actually we'll be inviting the public input into response into 8 questions total. And you will have about 5 to 8 minutes or so to respond to each. And I'll be informing you when there are 2 minutes left or 1 minute left. And our tech support, I'm hoping you can help me with this. And please take your time crafting your responses. Okay. And you can always share more than one response. You're not limited to one response. And again, if you need to put in a long response, please use the underscore. After you submit your response, we invite you to really reflect on what others have responded. And you'll see it will scroll through as soon as you enter your responses. So we're going to, I'm going to try to synthesize the information that comes through as much as possible. And you can always, if you don't get a chance by the end of the 5 to 8 minutes to provide a response, use the public input questionnaire. And let's go into the first topic. Oh, actually, right now we need to go into, okay, here we go. And so if you see on the top of the screen here, you can text KWPOLL2 to 22333. In order to text in your messages, you can use the link polev.com/KWPOLL2 and put that in your browser, and you can join that way. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to join here, and I'll ask the first. Great, we have responses already. Thinking about biodiversity in this region, what species, habitat, or places are important to protect? So I'm going to read through here. We have salmon, wetlands, restorable wetlands, sandy beaches, seagrass meadows, special status species, insects, bees, butterflies, wetlands, species, and amphibian, or wetland species and amphibians. Endemic plants, insects, reptiles, and mammals. Wetlands is a popular answer. The shoreline, the waters, native plants, forests, tide pools, wetlands again, marshes. We have rocky intertidal, wetlands, botanical priority preservation areas. And look at the conservation targets in the Bay Area. I missed that one. Live-in migration corridors are key to protect. We have the second occurrence of salmon, wildlife corridors, forests, oysters, forests. We have pollinators, umbrella species, urban connection habitat, parks and farms. Here's one for tidal wetlands, estuaries, wetlands, pollinators, ridgelines, native plants, subtidal habitat, eelgrass, watersheds, that's what I was looking for, important plant areas. Here's our redwoods again. Kelp forests, coastal oak foothill. The kelp forest item reminds me of the purple sea urchin and the sea star out there. That effort. Wetlands, stewardship of the conserved lands, not just acquisition. Coastal prairie, native grassland, oak habitat, places important to tribes. Of course, the beaches, urban greenery, riparian, salt marsh, wildlife corridors, conservation of farmlands, wildlands, wetlands, coastal lands, and maritime resources. That covers it for this region. Open space, grasslands again, green space in urban areas, urban watersheds, undeveloped floodplains. This one, 945 acres of Sonoma Development Center. Includes wildlife corridor, multiple habitats in the same place. Oh, you're scrolling up. Okay. Let's just see what this one says. Water resources. Also, I saw something about wildfire areas and biodiversity must be protected. Yes. Urban canopies, waterways and oceans, Mark. Habitat for pollinators and birds. Serpentine and other areas with native and endemic biodiversity. Representative diversity of habitat. Tool elk, that's a new one. Reclaiming low-lying areas around Highway 37 corridor. Bird flyways. Great. How are we on time? but I think we have, I think the main really areas for this region is redwood forests, the watersheds, wetlands. It's all showing up. And climate refuge, I think that
Refuge,
is.
yeah. Climate
Refuge,
refuge, yeah.
Okay. Bay Area Conservation Lands Network, rivers and streams.
It's a very comprehensive list.
It is. Edible fish, creeks and streams, special status plants and native bees, core habitats and linkages. And it looks like we don't have to do the underscore anymore, it seems like. Old growth redwoods. Okay, we have about a minute for you all to enter your responses. Hopefully you've been able to enter at least one. I think we have about 81 folks in this breakout room here today. Kelp forests, there are oaks, upland areas to allow tidal marshes to migrate to match sea level rise. Here's another one for Sonoma Development Center. Marine mammals, shellfish, and grasslands. Nearshore kelp.
Short and kelp.
Oh, and kelp. I saw a comma. High wildfire lands. Here's another one for eelgrass. San Francisco Bay. I'm surprised that's showing up now. Birds. Urban areas and infrastructure friendly for wildlife and plants. Agreed. Naturalized creeks. This is not working.
You don't have to read it all.
I know. Vernal pool habitat. There we go.
All right, we should.
Mark,
Are we at the end at this point? It seems like
yeah, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your response to this question. So the next question, thinking about this region, what nature-based climate solutions are important to you? Take your time to think about that. Thinking about this region, what nature-based climate solutions are important to you?
Cece, did you have a list of examples just to get people going?
Yeah, I was getting to that. So I was going to say, just like Amanda mentioned earlier, some examples in her remarks were green roofs, community tree canopies, vertical gardens. You remember those beautiful pictures on her slide, wetlands restoration, stormwater parks, urban or agricultural water conservation, prescribed burns. And another one she mentioned was increased conservation of working forests.
Yeah, and in the stormwater realm, things like biofiltration would fit into that category. For sea level rise, things like living shoreline. So those are just some things to sort of get people going. Right.
And I think we might be having some technical difficulties, and maybe that's why we're not capturing your responses. We'll be right back online. I think we took it offline to troubleshoot it, it looks like. But in the meantime, you can think about your responses. Oh, here we go. We're back online. Watershed restorations, reforestation of sudden oak death affected areas. There's our urban tree canopy with native species. Regenerative agriculture. Here's the carbon sequestration piece. Important plant areas, open space, protection, urban forests, large conservation lands connected, green fields development, for transit or in urban infill. Regenerative agriculture, lots of urban area, greening and open space, high fire risk locations. Okay, it looks like we have a phone participant. I'm gonna let this roll a little bit. Mark, I don't know if you want to jump in to synthesize some of this, but yeah, so phone participant, I'm sorry, one minute. Let me get them started and then you can jump in. We have someone joining with the phone number 3163. If you want to provide a text response, please text to KWPOLL2, the number 22333. So KWPOLL2 to 22333. You can text to that, your responses to that number. And if you need to speak verbally, your response, please *9. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
There was a lot of stuff on urban forests, urban tree canopy, a lot of wetland restoration, wildlife corridor protection, number of items like this one, conservation easements for farm and grazing lands and better managing of agricultural lands, bioswales for those stormwater geeks like me.
Living levees, is that more like ecosystem services sort of? I wonder if that's what was meant.
The levees, a lot of that is wetland management for wetland protection and sea level rise. It's a technique.
Okay. Learning a lot.
Prescribed burns keeps coming up. And again, removing obsolete dams. I think we got it the first set of caps, but yeah.
Yep. Infill development, lots of that in the urban areas.
Yep, climate smart ag, that's come up a couple times.
Okay.
Stacey, do you want to read the question out loud for the person who joined late by phone?
Thank you. So our phone participant, the question we are on right now is thinking about this region, what nature-based climate solutions are important to you? Thinking about this region, what nature-based climate solutions are important to you? And we're reading some examples out to you right now. Okay, and I think we're out of time. And again, please use the public input questionnaire available at californianature.ca.gov, and we'll move on to the next question. Great. With regard to 30 by 30 and/or nature-based solutions, how can we advance equity and opportunity in the San Francisco Bay Area? I'm going to read it again for our phone caller. With regard to 30 by 30 and/or nature-based solutions, how can we advance equity and opportunity in this region? Thought-provoking question here, and we'll just wait for the responses to come in. Maybe you're all thinking through. So I just wanted to give you a bit of context while you're thinking here. Recreational and natural lands range from this area foothills, and some of the grassland and shrubs in the area, wetlands, as we've covered. So we're taking it offline. Okay, here we go. Jobs at all skill levels, green energy job, clean energy jobs. Yeah. Okay. So training up our workforce.
A lot of workforce development
on environmental, yeah. urban canopy and green streets. Yeah, and underserved areas, public parks with, sorry.
Consult with the tribes was a big one in there. Yep.
Okay. Glad you caught that one. Here we are building capacity for Indigenous land stewardship, public transit, servicing natural areas, funding, equal access to open space, environmental justice issues like chronic asthma, integrate permaculture, design principles, Native people. I think funding will be a big one under this question. Equitable access to nature and natural spaces, training, here's the job piece. Partner with DEI orgs, jobs. Here's another piece for resources and financial support for ranchers that provide ecosystem services. Innovations and solutions to communities that have low amounts of natural areas. Increase public access to natural space. Address disproportionate Bay Area land costs within region and among regions. Nature investments in nature poor communities. That's another one. Our tribal nations. Funding for BIPOC farm leases and ownership. Paid opportunities to get people involved. So resourcing the community. Jobs. Keep equity, inclusion, and diversity in mind throughout. Yes, pervasive. Transit trails. Early childhood education. Yes. Protecting our watersheds. Infill housing.
Yeah, heat islands is a big problem for equity for sure.
Yeah. Coordinate with organizations. Yes, that's definitely a need. Plant trees that have for communities with poor health outcomes. Here's a wildfire smoke. Parks and trails near people. Pesticide. Here's one on pesticides. Open and free access to public lands. Increase, yeah, that's a very common request. Need authentic listening and learning, engagement with the community to identify needs and opportunities. Develop mass transit, congestion prices. Here's another one around jobs, internships. Support. Prevent green gentrification and displacement.
Big issue.
Provide information in multiple languages. We strive to do that. Get kids out in nature. Another one for the young people. Charge ranchers for negative climate impacts. Improve transit to nature. Provide resources and education to disadvantaged farmers. Several on ranching here, livable wages, trails and lands, rehabilitate them. Funding for the 3 urban areas, San Jose, Oakland, and San Francisco. Listen and partner with CBOs. Funding for ag workforce housing, so specifically on ag. Support a Green New Deal in California. Oh, okay.
Here's
this
a
is
big
going to
one.
be, I know. We might have to tag team this one, Mark.
That one was an essay.
Yeah.
Lots of environmental education though component.
Education, K to 12 is just, I think. Urban greening. Here's the kids. Affordable housing, yes, interconnected to housing, sure. Yeah, lots of responses on farmers and ranchers. How are we doing, team, on time? Should we be moving on soon?
Yeah.
Subsidized ride shares. And just for our phone caller, if you want to speak a verbal response, it's *9, just before we move on here.
Casey, this is Julie Lynn from Tech Support.
Yes.
We're doing great. It doesn't look like we're having any issues with our participants. Everyone's using the poll really well. But
Okay.
we probably can go ahead and move on
Right.
to the next part. Thank you.
Yes, next question, please. So let's see, we are on question 4. What is working in this region to conserve lands and or coastal waters and implement nature-based solutions to climate change? I think we have a couple of parts to this. It's
Yeah.
the A here. What is working in this region to conserve land and or coastal waters and implement nature-based solutions to climate change? We're getting some open space districts, San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority, grant programs for Coastal Conservancy, Measure AA. Is that a Los Angeles based or?
No,
Measure?
that's San Francisco
That's
Bay.
Okay.
Yep.
Marine protected areas, of course, that's yours, Mark. Mapping important plant areas, land trusts, and deep pockets.
Yeah, wetland restoration's been going pretty well up here.
Yeah. Multi-jurisdiction collaborations, mitigation and conservation banks. Here's another one on land trusts. Robust access to data to support multi-benefit land use.
Some
Native
successful groups.
Native, yeah. Sarah Club. Shout out. Efforts to organize like Sonoma Land Trust. Baylands ecosystem.
The Baylands goals had some wetland restoration targets that were quite bold.
Can you give an example of one of the targets?
Oh man, I think it was something like 100,000 acres by 2025 or something like that. Or it was or 2030. I can't remember the exact year, but it was pretty bold.
It does sound like it. Restoring marsh and tidal land. Big money donations to Peninsula Open Space Trust. I've been out to some of those hikes out there. They're just wonderful. Measure AA and 2014 water. Active land. We have another land trust. Native communities. Coastal Conservancy's Bay program funding for regional trails. Yep. Not Point Reyes National Seashore.
Yeah, that's tomorrow at the Coastal Commission, everybody.
There's a topic on the agenda for tomorrow. Open space districts. San Francisco's integrated pest management approach. That's an interesting one. Yeah. Voter approved urban growth boundaries. Here's 2 in a row. Local level adaptation planning.
Beneficial reuse of sediment should be a lot more of it. That's a problem everywhere for habitat creation.
Okay. So we're taking more responses and we have about a minute to go, and then we'll move on to 4B. Pacifica Land Trust. And our phone participant looks like dropped off, but let's see, just making sure here. Yep. Oh, we have participant 3163. If you'd like to speak your response, please *9. The question we're on right now is, what is working in this region, San Francisco Bay, to conserve lands and or coastal waters and implement nature-based solutions to climate change? So if you'd like to speak, *9. And if you'd like to text it in, It's KWPOLL2 to the number 22333.
A lot of restoration successes, a lot of coastal conservancy props.
Segurate. Do you know that one, Mark?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. I think we can move on to question 4B now. I'll take a head start. Oh, well, you're really fast. What is working in this region to increase equitable access to nature and its benefits? And I think a number of those issues came up in the last question on equity.
Yeah.
What is working in this region to increase equitable access to nature and its benefits? And again, phone caller, *9 to unmute to respond to the question. And we're just waiting for responses to roll in from our webinar and text users. And I saw a chat in there. Our team did a little bit of research already. Longoria Te Land Trust Mate. Okay, great. Thanks, Ivana. So again, what is working in this region to increase equitable access to nature and its benefits? Our phone caller, you can text to KWPOLL2, number 22333. In case you're a new caller, I think you're still, okay. Here we go. Working with schools.
Not much.
I wasn't gonna. Land pass in Sonoma County. Free access. Okay. Lawsuits. Sometimes you have to go there. Indigenous land trusts. Prioritization for protecting coastal trail. Here's the school programs for kids. Vida Verde Nature Education Program in San Gregorio. Free coastal beaches in Sonoma.
Definitely a trails theme.
Yes. Lots of hikers. I'm one of them. Kids, yes. Open access to river and ocean areas. We have some practical jokers in the room. Latino Outdoors SF, that program's working well. Yeah. We have a repeat on Vida Verde. Environmental education, low or no cost parks and open space. Yep, that's affordability or accessibility. That's definitely tied to accessibility. NGO community. Mountain bikers especially show up and fundraise to make projects happen. That's great. Open, lower cost housing areas. So more open space and parks that have been popping up in low cost housing. Active transportation program funding.
Lots of NGO leadership here.
Yes, yes. We have a lot of outreach to do, Mark. Free national parks for fourth graders. Very specific. Yeah, that's a program. Okay. Community-based programs working on environmental justice. Thriving Earth Exchange. Working well.
Coastal Conservancy Access the Coast is a big program.
Mm-hmm. Programs that take people out into nature. Community gardens, science, citizen science program. Yeah. Outdoor Afro, yes. Definitely know your work. National parks open to public without charge. Yes. The Bay Trail now open. Effective advocates, another shout out for Outdoor Afro. Bay Area youth fly fishers. That's inspiring. Nature to neighborhoods enrichment. Grants, one on funding urban space. City surf project. Reduce costs and free transit like Muni Lifelines transit, yeah. ADA upgrades, yeah, that's definitely a necessity. How are we doing on time, our team? Do we have a minute? When should we move on? California, yes.
This is Julie Lynn from tech support again. We're doing great on time, but
Okay.
if you're ready to move on, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, let me just check with our phone caller, *9, caller 3163. If you'd like to speak your response, otherwise, again, you can text it in, and then we also have the public input questionnaire. And yes, Julie Lynn, can we move us on, please? So we're on question. Okay, we're moving on to question 5. The state of California is committed to conserving 30% of its lands and coastal waters by 2030. What does conservation mean to you? Jen was mentioning this question earlier. What does conservation mean to you within the context of 30 by 30?
Yeah, it's a really important question for everyone.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, this question is broad intentionally. We have, the state has not defined it. The state is interested in hearing the community's definition of conservation. And if you want to think back to what, some of the examples Jen gave you earlier on in her talk. Here we go. Full retention of ecosystem functions, no poured concrete. So same ecosystem services. Biodiversity is preserved for future generations. Clean air, soil, habitats for endemic species. Public access. Equitable access. Regen ag, places with thriving native biodiversity, long-term protection with management focused on biodiversity. Very thorough definition. Saving the diversity of life in the state. Protected from industrial man. Multiple uses in the same space. So efficient use of space. Ecosystem, here's another ecosystem for people.
Yeah, there's prevent extinction on there.
Okay. Conservation equal protected lands, open to human powered something. I missed that one. Conserve our land using existing funding, state of California greening. I could catch all of it.
Basically very native plant oriented restoration and greening, urban greening efforts.
Okay. Refugia, protecting refugia for native plants. Wildlands, reestablishment of keystone species. Roadless areas. Recognizing why we're in this place in the first place. Careful balance of access and wildlife protection. The balance piece. Not killing purposefully or inadvertently living creatures with chemicals. Retention of natural carbon cycle. Space for wildlife with no people. Identifying projected changes to landscape habitats as a result of climate change, protecting nature for nature.
There was a pre-human development one that was on there.
Okay. Decolonization. Conservation should include public access for hunting and
Probably fishing.
fishing, I think. Yeah, protecting nature for nature's sake. That's a recurring theme. Consideration of dynamic changes, not one single action or point in time. Protecting people and other species from pesticides, so the pesticides issue. Habitat connectivity. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Breathing clean air, drinking clean water. The basic needs. Conservation means wise
Use.
of our resources. Protecting high fire risk areas from development. Ecosystem restoration. Protection from poorly sited large-scale industrial renewable. Pervasive
energy.
use. Yeah. What's IPM? Pervasive use of IPM.
Integrated pest management.
Okay. Protecting land for regional trail corridors. Protecting wildlife and migration corridors. Carbon sequestration on rangelands. Allowing indigenous management.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yes. Using natural resources in a mindful way. Commitment to no future development. The same thing.
I think that was spatially, not vertically, is what they were saying.
Oh, okay.
On development.
Okay. That's important note.
Yeah, a lot of pesticide and herbicide stuff.
Health for human, animals, and plants. Let's take maybe another 30 seconds or so of responses. Our phone caller, again, *9 if you want to speak any responses. Okay. Julie Lynn, I think we can move on to the next question, question 6. And we're going to move into our regional challenges, our second topic. And here's another multi-part question, question 6. Please describe the greatest challenges to conserving lands and or coastal waters and implementing nature-based solutions to climate change. Yeah, and we're getting the hang of it because this one's just about challenges versus opportunities. Land values around funding, NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Bay Area land is so expensive. I hear you. Systemic racism, that's part of it. Population growth, for sure. Dumping. The mosaic of management agencies. Housing and vineyards are the threat. Cost of land. Some more around funding, fiscal land use, fiscalization of land use. Commercial exploitation. More government. Invasive species. Those purple sea urchin. Jobs, housing imbalance. For sure. Educating people on value of earth to their preservation. Length of time to get permits. Is that greens or really?
It's greed.
Greed, okay. Educated public, for sure. Parochial local government. Green funding is funding non-native planting in San Francisco. Okay, I think we've seen that one.
Yeah.
Business interests driving growth. Pesticide reduction strategies are left out of the regional and statewide efforts to protect water, air, reduce toxic pesticides. Nature as an afterthought. Capitalism, a political one. Old ways of thinking, no innovative ideas. Lack of. Urban sprawl rather than focused growth. Here's one on consumption and waste. Prop 13. Funding and willing sellers. Fire. Yeah. Hear you on that. Siloed. We're getting a recurring theme with the funding as being a big challenge here. Challenges with defining what timescale qualifies as the solution. How long does it take carbon to need to be sequestered? So a time element here. Over harvesting, overuse of oceans and lands. Real estate, ranchers. Externalities are bad. Crisis management. Anne Hathaway. I think that's the same practical joker we have in our midst. NIMBYism, preventing multifamily housing, nature not being valued, PRNS, 18,000 acres of cattle, not wildlife, pollution. I was waiting for that one. Lack of regional and planning and cooperation. Easier to develop greenfields versus infill.
Yeah, there's a few cutting the green tape ones on here for sure.
Mm-hmm. There's another cost, funding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We hear you on the funding.
Only one Anne Hathaway though. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Resistance to change from status quo. Competing interests. That's all. Yep, that's a problem for sure. Highway crossings for wildlife, regional trails. Engineer ourselves out of this, humanity's ego of dominion. Need permitting. Here's another one on permitting. Costs. Mm-hmm. And housing is definitely, housing and rent in the Bay Area for sure. Grazing, growing economic inequality, forgetting the carbon values. Here's one on data that not shared or common. Big food. Status competition, material culture, plastic pollution. Not enough attention on enforcing regulations that protect air, water, and health for all. Lack of stewardship funding. Climate change and sea level rise for sure. Here's another one on dumping. Team, how are we doing on time for this question? I know we have a two-part question, so maybe we could take a couple more, give our phone caller a chance, and then move on to 6B.
I think we're ready to move on if you are, Cece.
Yep, we are, right, Mark?
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to 6B. Please describe the greatest challenges to increasing equitable access to nature and its benefits. So here we're talking about challenges to equitable access. So some of the key barriers that we need to overcome here. So transportation, definitely anticipated, greed, funding, around costs, housing costs, public transit to public open spaces, education, lack of public transit, yeah, racism, systemic racism. We hear you on that. The agency capture, wealth inequality. Housing. Convincing land managers that trails should be Ethereal, they shouldn't be permanent. Not safe for BIPOC people, okay? Car culture, not equitable. Sprawl, need focused development around, surrounded by natural working lands. Unwelcome to non-whites. Bay Area land values. Making outdoor space and outdoor groups welcoming to BIPOC communities and so that they feel safe. Public transit costs and transit routes.
Oh, there's historic continuing patterns of land use. Zoning is really a big issue here.
Yeah, zoning. Again, Anne Hathaway.
It's always Anne Hathaway.
Increase investment in nature-based solutions along pollution corridors. Gatekeeping culture, secret spots. Lack of free public access and public transport. BIPOC folks left out of the conversation. Publicly owned open space not open to the public. Remove rangers as law enforcement. Equity and EJ organizations are not compensated for their involvement in planning and investment decisions. Resourcing the communities, yeah. Not enough education. Here's an education piece. Repatriation of native lands. NIMBY. Lack of elected representation. Lack of inclusion. So there's some implications for not you. Mm-hmm. Economic insecurity causes homelessness, for sure. Disproportionate power of real estate and landlord interests. It's another inclusion piece. So here's a jobs piece, I think, wage, agriculture policies driving immigration, bad air, and with the wildfires. Yes, we hear you on that. Lack of trail connectivity. Current land use planning practices do not reflect BIPOC experiences or priorities. Stink guy. Funding. So we have transportation, we have buses, but it doesn't run consistently enough when you are able to enjoy the parks. Timeline to opening trails is way too long. Lack of funding for K through 12 programs need to be more comprehensive. Safety, here's another, I think several occurrence of safety for our communities. Nature deficit disorder. I haven't heard that one before.
Oh, I have.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, displacement and gentrification comes up a lot in this issue,
Okay.
so that was just brought up.
Okay. Defaulting to relying on parents to expose them to outdoors. So relying more on our government to help with the programs. Oh, okay, here we go. Anti-mountain bike sentiment. Okay. Policy should prioritize nature investment in communities of color and disadvantaged communities.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely a priority for this effort. Missing accessibility or different language signs, so some ADA issues here. Culture of policing and exclusion. Trail highway crossings can cut off communities from open space and parks. Need for inclusionary housing, access to opportunity. Here's another trail highway crossing. But this one is lack of. Okay, are we frozen? Or we're just not getting more responses? Here we go. lack of consideration for age and disability and ability to access. So here's one for on age. How are we doing, team, on time? Should we move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we're moving on to the next set of questions. It's the final and final topic is on regional opportunities. We have 2 questions here. So number 7, what does success look like for climate smart land management in this region? Okay. So while you're gearing up to respond, let's, so we just want to encourage you to think big here, beyond contributing to your climate change goals. How can nature-based climate solutions deliver on broader policy goals? For example, driving regional economic development, supporting public health, improving the quality of people's lives. So some of those interconnected issues. There we go.
Yeah, we're seeing great answers.
80% of trips are, okay.
Mass transit.
Mass transit. Active volunteer network of land stewards, protect recharge zones, transit-oriented development only, statewide effort to subsidize tree planting. Trees, important. Protection of all mapped important plant areas, IPAs. Yeah. Clear and shared goals across land managers. Protecting wildlife and communities from climate change impacts. Environmentally literate public.
There was a smart urban forestry approach was one of the ones.
Okay. Manage retreat to preserve shorelines. Healthier people with healthier earth. Funding for restoration of bay wetlands. Integrative active management to urban places, as well as parks and reserves. Allow movement of wildlife. Renewable energy versus habitat. Okay. Native residential planting programs to reduce invasives.
There's a couple of those.
Demand side management to match rooftop parking lot urban space solar. Okay, that's the first I've seen solar. Abundant return of salmon and steelhead. All schools. So there's a institutional something about purchasing. It's like land. No more catastrophic wildfires. Yeah. Re-oaking Silicon Valley. So our orchards or our forests. Sorry. Reducing development in very high fire risk areas. More BIPOC people working on these issues. Trails to trails, so connectivity. Fund and support Indigenous leadership. All parts of all cities in the Bay Area enjoy the highest percentage of urban canopy in the country. Connected regional and other trails.
With transportation, yeah.
Vehicle, miles traveled. Large blocks of habitat. Sorry, I missed that. Safe routes to school. Okay. Protected.
There's our 100,000 acres of wetlands.
There we go. By 2030. Rooftop solar. I saw another safe routes to school. Clean air, robust alternative transportation. Watershed restoration, native food trees with equitable access. Trees, trees, trees. Native plants in every yard. Equitable distribution of benefits and costs. Supporting farm workers, green infrastructure. Have you seen urban gardening at all?
I mean, there's been other terms for it, yeah. There's been a few.
Okay. Wildlife have resting places and habitat within urban areas, so they can use migratory zones. 50 by 50. cooling landscapes, zero GHG emissions, net carbon sequestration, more fog, less severe and smaller fires. Definitely fires is up there on the list, or less fires, fewer fires, improved health indicators. Follow recommendations to restore urban and suburban biodiversity in the SFEI. Urban native plantings. There's another one on renewable energy versus habitat. Green spaces between UGBs enforced. I think at this point, we'll maybe take a couple more and then we'll move to question 8 because we're approaching 6 o'clock.
Right.
Sounds great, Cece.
Thank you, Julie Lynn. Okay, we're on our... Oh, Jasmine, sorry. So let's jump to question 8. I'm going to take a head start here, and it's a short one. So what does success look like for 30 by 30? Oh, we have responses already. Okay. Improve soil diversity and health everywhere. Protecting and stewarding the most high value locations related to regional trail corridors, fire protection, reduce carbon emissions, clean air, water, public access to public lands, protect their natural habitat. Passing, here's the Green New Deal. Butterflies.
Any thoughts on land versus sea, on people's difference there, or the same, or just something to think about?
Yeah.
Watershed restoration.
Yeah. Commitment to reaching 30 by 30 and then as a launching pad for 50 by 50. So next steps are ready. Removing the Klamath dams.
There you go.
So really really achieving it. Lays out repeatable plans. So yeah, some long-term planners in the room. Every habitat type in the state is protected. Protected areas in the ocean, broadly protecting natural lands and watersheds equitably, including underserved and EJ communities. Yes.
So Cece, since we keep getting these no loss of native species, just remember I didn't put that down when Jen Norris asks.
Okay. I'll back you up. All right. According to CNRA, we 46. Okay, sorry, I missed that. We are no longer producing plastic. Okay, including microplastics. We've already roughly achieved 30 by 20 by something.
In the
no
Bay
species
Area.
on the in Bay Area. No species on the endangered list.
Hopefully that means because they recovered and didn't go extinct.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone can access green space with a 10-minute walk. That would be really ideal.
That's a great indicator.
Yes. Clean air and water. Yes.
Lots of pollinators.
Mm-hmm.
Protection.
Mission Blue. Not relying on hatcheries. Bringing back native salmon and steelhead.
So that's watershed protection.
Mm-hmm. Educated public that votes for support for 30 by 30. Everyone is half a mile from a regional trail network. That would be really great. Just walking to your hike. Full aquifers. We have air as crystal clean and clear as it was when everyone was on lockdown. Sustainable funding for project opportunities that emerge. Flattening the curve on number of wildfires, species lost. So really important one. Native species have priority. So we're 4 minutes before 6, and we want to be able to get you all out of here on time. So I think we're going to wrap up our feedback session here. Our tech support team, we can probably turn this off. And, you know, we just want to thank you again for being such good sport about participating in this meeting, being muted and your video down. And, you know, if we weren't in the pandemic, we'd be all in the same auditorium and doing this, you know, ideating throughout the room. But thank you for being a good sport, sharing your ideas today and your experiences with us. And again, just to remind you, it's been recorded and it will be available online. In this room in particular, so your responses were recorded. So californianature.ca.gov. We will be posting meeting summaries. We're not attributing any comments captured. You can also, again, provide feedback on today's experience. Completing the post-workshop evaluation, we will email to you. And we invite you to stay connected visiting californianature.ca.gov. There you can provide additional written comments if you didn't get a chance to respond today or you have more responses. We also have that public input questionnaire that we keep mentioning. Please sign up and attend one of our future events. We have, I think Jenna mentioned we have some workshops coming up on topics and so forth, and then another round in the fall. And thank you again for your participation. I want to hand it over to Mark just for some closing remarks. But before I do that, I want to let you all know we're not all convening again in plenary. We're going to end the meeting right after Mark's closing remarks.
Yeah, so I'll be short because I'm sure everyone wants to go to dinner. But thanks again for everyone's creative, sophisticated, passionate, and sometimes humorous comments. So I guess Anne Hathaway is finally going to become famous, but seriously, there really were some great ideas here, some very innovative ones. So thanks for everyone hanging in there and giving us your best.
Great, thank you. We're going to end the meeting now.
Great. CC,
yes.
That's it, right? There's no debrief tonight, right? It was just, we're done.
Oh, I thought there was.
Oh, there is one? Okay.
There's a debrief, but I don't know if it's just for K&W. So Mark, I will have Ivana or Eric get a hold of you ASAP.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, okay.
I think the plan is for everyone to join the debrief just for a couple more minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, Ivana, thank you.
I'm going to stay on here and we'll start the other one
but
as soon as I ensure that all the other rooms are closed.
So I wonder, it's possible that Mark did not get the invite.
Yes, Mark, I can send it to you in the chat right now if you give me one moment.
I will forward it to you, Mark.
Oh, great. Thank you, Ivana.
No problem. Sorry about that, Mark.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, and tech team, let us know when we could jump off, or should we stay on still?
You can hop off.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, Mark, see you on the other side.
All right, bye.
Oh, hey, Victor, do you want to join the debrief for a second, for a few minutes? We can't hear you, but okay. Ivana will take care of you. Okay.